Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible.
Welcome to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Allysa Jo. Hello, everybody. How is it going today? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. My day has been going so good. It has been a really good week. It's been a productive week. I feel like I've gotten lots done. I feel like I still have a million things to do, but that's what life is right now. So I hope you're having a productive and successful week as well, and you're feeling good and happy and living your life to the fullest and the happiest, because that's what I'm here to help you do. Take you on a journey of some self-exploration and help you live your life to the fullest and the happiest. And today, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about, is life and living it to the fullest and making every single moment last. We're going to talk about time, and we're going to talk about the importance of time and the importance of being in the present moment and why we need to all slow down a little bit. Time is so crucial. It's just so important. And I feel like sometimes we can take advantage of time itself, or sometimes we can get a little bit overly obsessive with time. So today's episode is going to be a little bit about how if we get obsessed with time, how that can kind of sabotage us and making the most out of our time, and why we should be, slowing down in life a little bit and just learning to enjoy more of the moments and less rushing. I feel like we're always trying to figure out what the next step is, and we're always trying to figure out what we're doing in the future, what's to come, and we often forget to just slow down and enjoy what's right in front of us. So today we're going to be talking about time and how we need to slow down and just enjoy life. I feel like everybody is always on a race, and I don't know who we're all racing against, because if everyone was on the same timeline, none of that would make sense. And that's why I feel like the pressure when we're younger, right? From when we get out of high school, we have this pressure of what is next? What are you doing now? What university will you go to? How are you going to make your money? Where are you going to live? How are you going to do all these things? And it's like, if you don't have it figured out, you feel like you're behind. And my question is, who are you behind? Who are you racing against? Who are you trying to catch up to? Like, maybe the people your age? Like, we're all different types of people. We all handle life completely different. We're all dealt a different deck of cards. And so I find it so funny how we're always trying to just race against each other and race to the end. And I don't know why we're racing, because time is so important and time is so precious, because eventually we're going to run out of time altogether. And that's why we really need to learn how to use our time wisely. And that's why today I'm going to talk a little bit more about just some things that you might recognize in yourself, that maybe you're taking advantage of time, or maybe you're getting too obsessed with time, and how that can kind of sabotage your happiness and your quality of life. And then, of course, like usual, I'll jump into some tips about how we can use our time more wisely, how slowing down can benefit us. And then, of course, at the end of episode 2, I will talk about more tips of how to be in the present moment and the importance of being in the present moment and what that does for our mind, our body, our overall well-being, our mental health, our physical health, just everything. I get it. First of all, I'm saying all these things because I have experienced all of this. I experienced that pressure out of high school. What am I going to do next? Why I feel like I'm so behind. And while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my life, I felt like I was 10 steps ahead of everybody. I felt like, shouldn't I just have this figured out? And that was a lot of pressure on me and a lot of pressure I put on myself. And during that time, I missed on so many amazing things of my own life because I was scared of time. I thought, it was all moving too quickly and I was just so far behind instead of just enjoying the present moment. And I am impatient. I am one of those people who will take the stairs because I can't stand waiting for an elevator, or, I'm just an impatient person naturally, and I think a lot of us are, especially when we're really focused on our careers or goals or things that we want to accomplish. We can really get obsessed with our time, and we have to find this healthy balance of slowing down and speeding up and making the most of our moments and taking advantage of time, or all these different things. And I think we can all be impatient in some way, whether we're trying to figure out what our next step is in our life or waiting for an elevator. We get irritated with time. And the thing is, we can never gain back time. Once the moment's gone, it's gone. Once a day is done, it's done. Today will never happen again, but tomorrow the sun will rise. I love that saying because it's true. Today's never going to happen again, but tomorrow the sun's going to rise and you're giving a new opportunity to make the most out of your life. So let's make the most out of it. We got to live in moments. We got to live in moments, not time, because that's what it's all about, is the moments. The little things. And I'm sure you've heard that saying a million times. It's always about the little things. It's all about the little things. And it's true. It is about the little things. And it's about appreciating those moments and appreciating the little things and not taking advantage of those things or getting obsessed with time, which when we get obsessed with time, we lose time. It's funny because we get so obsessed and we're so careful with our time that we actually lose meaningful time in our lives. It feels like we're being productive and going forward and all these things, but in reality, we're missing out on some of the great things about life. And there's so many great little things about life that we just gotta slow down to appreciate. And don't get me wrong, I definitely don't believe that we should waste our time. I don't think we should completely slow down and just stop going after the things that we want. But I think there's definitely a fine line between wasting your time and becoming obsessed with time, right? We have to find that healthy balance. It's like finding that healthy work and play balance. You have to have your social life. You have to go out and do fun things, but you also got to stay goal-orientated and focused and motivated on the things that you want to accomplish. And we can't keep being obsessed with time, but time is more important than money. And money runs our world these days. It is all about money. We got to make money to live. But really, it's the clock that never stops, and one day it will stop. So we can't keep being obsessed with time. This obsession has become, I think really, really prominent in those breed of really high achievers, the ones that are going all full force. And there's so much motivational content out there, me included, this podcast included. There's so many motivational contents and people trying to give life advice and trying to tell you to stay motivated and focused. And I do that all the time to you guys. And we consume all this motivational stuff and we consume all these things that we should be doing, we should be focusing on. And sometimes we can get obsessed with that. And that's why we really got to figure out this healthy balance, because when we get obsessed with time, we lose time. How many times am I going to say that this episode? A lot, probably. But in retrospect, our reality can sabotage us, and it often feels like a race because I think we're always looking at what other people do and what they are doing with their lives, and we compare it to them. Just like outside of high school, maybe you had some friends that were, accepted to university and they were way on their way and you had still no idea what you wanted to study. Or same with university, you're getting out of university and people had jobs lined up, and maybe you never had a job lined up right away and you still didn't know what was going to happen with your degree or whatever you were doing. And we look at our friends and we say, they have it figured out. They're married. They own a house. They have kids. They perhaps have their dream job already. They're in their career. Maybe they're super fit, or they have, these days, maybe they have more social media followers than me. And we always, always, always compare ourselves to everybody else. And we look outwards instead of looking inwards. And we just are in this race with other people that is just so not necessary, because we're not really racing against them. All that matters is you and how you feel about your life, and if you feel on track. Who cares if you're not married yet and you don't own a house or a dog or have kids and all your friends do? We're all on different paths. We all got different things going on. We're all on different journeys. And yes, they do coincide once in a while. Our paths definitely cross. And it's important to have those relationships and to look up to people and, and to feel good about your friends being motivational and successful, and you want to look up to them and do all those things too. Like that, there's nothing wrong with that. But we have to find that healthy balance within ourselves. And no one put a timeline on your life. They really didn't. Like, yes, you grow older every single year, but there's no set timeline of exactly how you should be doing things. And if there was a timeline, can you imagine how chaotic things would be if we were all supposed to be doing the same thing at the same time, even like within your age group? Like, that just doesn't make sense. So we can't let our reality sabotage us. We can't let time take over our lives. We can't compare ourselves to others constantly, because it is going to take over our life and it will sabotage it. So today's episode's all about time. Slowing down and appreciating the moments in life and why we need to do that. It's time, speaking of time though, it's time for a little bit of a break. So when we get back, I'll jump into some more information. And don't forget to hold on to the end of the episode, because I'm going to be talking about the present moment and how we can be more present and the importance of that. So stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
To GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. In case you forgot, my name's Allysa Jo. I am your host, and today we're talking all about time, slowing down and appreciating the moments and not getting obsessed with time. A reason that we get obsessed with time is usually because we're trying to be so goal-oriented, we're trying to be so productive that we just get obsessed with our time. There's just not enough time in the day. And I feel that lately. I feel like I am getting obsessed with time at this point in my life because I have so many things to do, because a deadline for me is coming up, and feel like I'm running with like a chicken with my head cut off. I'm just chaotic right now, and I'm obsessed with my time. So with that all being said too, there's definitely, like I said, it's different for everybody, and you have to find that healthy balance. And there's nothing wrong, I don't think, with being obsessed with time for periods of your life, for sections. Maybe you do have a deadline. You really just gotta be obsessive over time for a couple weeks. But that's finding that healthy balance, right? You have to do that for a month or whatever, maybe even 2 months. Be really, really crucial with your time. That's okay. You just have to make sure that you're not doing that all the time, because if we're always doing that, we're always, going by the minute by minute, we're going to lose so much precious things about life. So one thing that I think makes us feel obsessed with time and feel like we're in this race is because we try to find certainty in everything that we do sometimes. A lot of people have to be certain about so many things, certain about marriage, certain about kids, certain about owning a house or investments or what you're going to be doing. And we get obsessed with, okay, I want this, I want that, and I want this, and this is how I'm going to get it, so I got to work really hard to go there. But in reality, it's impossible to guarantee anything in life whatsoever. And you got to think about that. We can't be certain about massive aspects in our life because things can change all the time. We're all on different paths. We're all experiencing different things. And you have no idea what kind of turn is going to happen or where you're going to end up. Or you may feel certain about a subject, but later on down the road, it might be completely different. And this all ties into the things that we want. And think about the things that you want. Do you really want them? Do we really want those things? And we get obsessed with the things we want, and that's when we start this race, right? We start this crazy race against ourselves, against the world, against, everything else, against time. We're racing against time to try to get what we want. And then 9 times out of 10, sometimes we get what we want and we don't even want it anymore. Or it's not what we would have expected, right? We're always chasing that next sunset. We're always chasing that next opportunity, that next thing. And sometimes when we're presented with that thing that we thought we wanted, we kind of just get disappointed. And it sucks because we didn't even enjoy the journey of getting there. And because we were so obsessed with our time, we were so obsessed with getting there that we didn't appreciate the journey to get there. And then once we got there, it just wasn't worth it. It just wasn't what we thought. And I think that's one of the most disappointing things about life sometimes, when we get so obsessed with time and you work so hard and you miss out on all these things, and then you get to the end of the race and you're like, oh, it's not as great as I thought it was going to be. So when you're thinking about things that you want out of life, make sure you actually want them. And if you want to obsess over time for a deadline or for something that you want, make sure you actually want it. Make sure that the end result is going to make you happy, because that's the most important thing, that it's going to make you happy. So focus on that. Figure out if you actually want it, because, at the end of the day, if it's really not worth it, it's not worth it. Enjoy the journey instead. Take a different route. Take the scenic route and just enjoy that time. All right, so let's jump into some more. So your timeline is a myth. This timeline that you are given with all, these certain things that, one day you're going to do this and do that. And, maybe you keep in your mind, you say, okay, my timeline, I'm going to graduate high school, and then I'm going to go to university for 4 years, I'm going to get my degree, and then I'm going to get my dream job, and then I'm going to work for a little bit, and then I'm going to get married, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to own a house, and blah, 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 blah. You set this time up for yourself as what you think you should set up, as what you think it should be. And cool, but your timeline is a myth. I'm sorry, because there's no guarantees whatsoever. We have no real certainty. So then how does that really affect what we think about time? And this just means that, the race we think of as life with all these time indicators, it's a total myth. I'm sorry. Your timeline's a total myth. Because if we take a step further, it means that your timeline for this whole achievement race is just a waste. So when you think you're falling behind because of a setback or something happened in your life, think about it. You will catch up and progress 100 miles in front of where you thought you would be. And there will be moments of massive momentum, and then there's moments of failure. It's all just a part of life. It's all part of that journey. There's no timeline. There's no telling you exactly what you're going to be doing, when you're going to be doing it. And we have to let go of that, because when we become so obsessed with this timeline or these things that we want, we miss out on the little things. And we're chasing that next sunset, but then we get there and it's just not that great. You've seen it a million times maybe, or you've been here. So what do we got to do to really appreciate those moments? And we have to slow down. A lot of the time we got to slow down to speed up. I actually have a whole episode on just that exactly. Slowing down to speed up, because we don't focus on things that maybe we should focus on because we're so obsessed with our time, and we don't slow down to appreciate our family and our friends in those moments, and we miss out on those things, and we miss out on happiness. And that is the most important thing in life, is being happy and feeling good about yourself and feeling, good about your journey. And we can be happy with all the things we've accomplished rather than dwelling on what we think we should have already completed. It's funny because I'm almost done my program at school, and I'm stressed out. I got a deadline to reach. I got lots of things to do. And my good friend, she, I ranted to her. I said, wow, I got so much to do. Time is just, there's not enough of it. And she looks at me and she says, look at all that you have accomplished this year. And I was like, oh, thank you for that reminder, because you're right. I'm so worried about things that I need to complete or feel like I should have completed, and I forgot to think about all the things I have completed and all the things I have accomplished this year. And I'm like, wow, you know what? Thank you for reminding me of that, because I was so worried about my next step or what's going to happen next, or being stressed out about what's to come. I forgot to appreciate all the great things I've already accomplished. And I forgot to, pay attention to that and give myself a round of applause for all the things that I've gone through this year and all these things that I've done. And I think everybody can have these moments in your life where you forget to appreciate all the things that we've accomplished. And it's sad, because all of a sudden, when she said that to me, I was like, whoa. Wow, you're right. And it hit me. I was like, wow, I have accomplished a lot this year. Thank you for reminding me of that, because we lose track of those things, especially when we're trying to meet a deadline or we got things to focus on, and maybe we are obsessing over time at a stage in our life. But it's always nice to have that reminder to just look back at those things. And this is why I always say, write in your journal, write things down, look back at the progress that you've made and the things that you've accomplished, and always celebrate your small victories as if they were big victories as well, because every small victory is still a victory, and it's still one step closer to your dream and to what you want. So we have to remember to slow down, and sometimes, I'm not saying look back or focus on the past, but sometimes we have to slow down and look backwards and think, wow, just look back at the view and say, wow, look at all that I've done. You don't have to dwell on the past of things that maybe you should have completed or that you thought maybe you should have completed way back when. That doesn't matter anymore. That time has passed. Only look back to appreciate those things, not to dwell on them or not to put yourself down for feeling like you didn't do enough, because you did do enough. And, there's only so much that you can ask of yourself, and you can ask of these things. And the most important thing to remember is that you are on track for you, and that you feel good about what you're doing. And the rest doesn't matter. Comparing yourself to anybody else doesn't matter. You don't focus on anything else but yourself and where you're at in your progress. And I promise, when you start to think about that and you start to slow down and appreciate those things, life is really going to change for you. You're going to feel good. You're going to be excited about the things that you've accomplished, and you're going to be more motivated to just use your time wisely. It's all about time management and figuring out, when you work best. Like, maybe you work really, really great early mornings, and then you're less productive in the evenings. Maybe you got to get obsessive over your time in the morning. Maybe, you got to make sure that you're out of bed at a certain time so you can start your work and be productive, and then you can let loose a little bit more in the afternoon. So figure out what works for you, and you have to run with it. That's the most important thing. But when I say run with it, I mean don't race against anyone else. I don't mean run against yourself or run against time or run against your peers. I just mean find what works for you, find your balance, and do what feels good for you at your own pace, because you are the only person that is in control of your life that's going to pave your road down your path. So go at your own pace. You're not racing against anybody. All right, well, it's time again for another break, but don't go anywhere. I have a few more tips about slowing down, and then we're going to, of course, talk about being in the present moment. You don't want to miss it, so stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast. We're on this last stretch of today's episode, and I really want to finish off today's episode talking a little bit more about just how to be in the present moment and making sure that we're not racing to the finish line of life, because the finish line of life will come for all of us at one day. So we got to learn how to appreciate all the little things and the journey and all those best things about life that we miss out when we're just trying to race to the end. And the only way to truly win this race of life is to realize that there is no race. Your true satisfaction and happiness is only going to be found within yourself. And when we can be alone with ourselves, we can be at peace and feel a deeper connection. This is what we have really been racing to find anyways. We want to find that happiness. We're going to the end of the finish line, trying to reach all of our goals because we're trying to find that happiness. We're trying to feel accomplished and successful and feel good about ourselves. But really the only happiness that we need and that we're ever going to find is within ourselves. So we can stop running around in circles or running towards the next accomplishment, because that's never going to provide that inner happiness that you really need. It will only take us further away from what we're actually hoping to feel when we're just racing against all odds. So what happens when we stop racing? It involves going deeper within, which can be a really scary thing for a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to look inwards, and that's why they're always looking outwards, while they're always searching for happiness and success in other aspects of their life that's not within them. And it's just scary to look inwards sometimes, right? So choosing to constantly be on the go is a lot easier for people. It can dull the pain. It avoids problems. You don't think about things a lot because you're just on to the next thing. That's where your mind is at. It just means that you don't really have to take a good look at yourself, and it's just this sense of satisfaction comes from feeling what you've accomplished, but it's a superficial sense of satisfaction. It's not really that true happiness within yourself. Adrenaline is a drug. It is like when you want to just go, when you're motivated, you got goals to reach and you're full force. Like, I get it. It is addicting. You go, but then you're missing out on so many amazing things. So what if instead of feeling constant pressure and anxiety, we could just be what we are in the moment and we can enjoy what we're doing? Our thoughts are rarely focused on actually where we are. They're in the past, wishing that we could change it, and they're in the future, creating false outcomes that will never usually come to reality. Are you one of those people that makes up scenarios in your head? I am one of those people. I'm always thinking, like, oh, what if this happens and this happens? And I literally do a little play in my head of exactly how I think or how I want it to play out. And 9 times out of 10, it never goes like that. And then I get disappointed because I made up this unrealistic scenario in my head. And there is nothing wrong with dreaming big, but we have to make sure that we're living in the present moment, because that's when we can really enjoy all these things. The past is over. There is nothing that we can do to change it. The future is yet to come. Reality is always the moment we are in right now, though. And we can only truly live by stopping this race of the mind to the imagined future. And all we can do is just live in the present moment. We can wake up from that dream, wake up from that made up scenario in your head, and there is something that will bring satisfaction to you. And that's turning inwards and taking responsibility for you and who you are inside. So you got to realize that there is no race. And when you can realize that there's no race, you're not racing against anyone. You don't have to, race to the finish line at all. You can find contentment right inside of yourself and happiness. So start by creating small gaps in your schedule. Start small at first. Get places a few minutes early. Things like that. I know it sounds silly, but get ahead in your own mind that way, so that you don't feel like you're racing to the end of your life. You still feel like you're on track with things. Just pay attention to the present moment. And by even making small gaps in your schedule and getting to places early, you're able just to sit there and breathe and be present in the moment. Do one thing at a time. Less is more. We can't multitask all these million things. So how exactly can we live in the present moment? it's balancing the past, present, and the future is what's really important. And it's good to think about the past and the future sometimes. You know, where would we be if we didn't look back over past successes and our mistakes and things that we learned from them? Where would we be if we never planned for the future or prepared ourselves for what is to come? You know, in both cases, we wouldn't really be in a great place. So it's essential to live a healthy life, to spend some time thinking about the past and the future. But it's rare that we don't think enough about the past or the future, and usually our problem is always just focusing too intently or even obsessively on the past or the future. So we have to be mindful of the present moment, which is a key factor in living this healthy, balanced life, for your thoughts are in the past, the present, and the future. And thinking about any of them too much can have serious negative effects on our lives, but keeping 3 in the balance will help us to be happy and healthy people. So we have to find the balance between the past, the present, and the future. So let's talk about getting this balance. Think about the past in small doses. Make sure you're only focusing on the past for a reason. So to relive a pleasant moment or a pleasant experience, identify where you went wrong or figure out the key to a past success, maybe, learning from a past mistake. Now think about the future in small doses as well. You know, make sure you're focusing on the future in a healthy, low anxiety way. So don't spend so much time worrying about what's next or thinking about the future. You just want to think about it just long enough that you can prepare for what's going to happen, and then you can move on. But we have to stay in the present moment for the vast majority of our time. That is the only way that we can really find that happiness within ourselves and not miss a bunch of amazing things about life. So with all this being said, I am such a go-getter, a goal-oriented person. I'm motivated. I want to be doing what's coming up next in my life. And this is where I've always struggled to live in the moment, because I want to live in the moment and enjoy all these things, but I'm so focused on what's next too. So how can we live in the moment but plan for the future? It's going to be a really difficult thing, and it seems complicated to figure this out, but it doesn't have to be as complicated. So when we engage in mindfulness or a present moment, a lot of people do meditation, or a lot of people maybe journal or do yoga, or maybe go for your walk, whatever your mindfulness kind of exercise or routine is. We're not ignoring or denying those thoughts of the past and the future. We're just simply choosing not to dwell on them. And it's okay to acknowledge and label our past and our future focused thoughts as well. We can categorize those and we can focus on those as well. But we just have to be aware of that balance and what's the most important. And the important point is to not allow yourself to get swept up in thinking about the past or the future. You just have to be able to find that healthy balance where you can think about it in appropriate manners in the right way. And when we are aware and present, we don't need to worry about getting caught up in the thoughts of our past or anxiety about our future. And we can just revisit our past and anticipate what's to come without losing ourselves totally in the past or the present. So cultivate unself-consciousness. So this means let go and stop thinking about your performance. Just do. You know, we spend so much time thinking, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? Do I look silly? How am I doing? You know, and we're going back and forth and making sure we did the best thing ever. We just have to learn to let it go and stop thinking about your performance and just do it. Practice savoring. So avoid worrying about the future by fully experiencing the present moment. When you savor a moment, you know, it's like when you savor a chocolate bar and you slowly eat your chocolate bar. You just savor it because you enjoy it so much and you want it to last longer. Think about the beautiful moments in your life that you want to last longer and just savor those moments. Focusing on your breath. I think this is a very straightforward one. Allow mindfulness to make sure that you are more at peace and smooth your interactions with others by just focusing on your breath, lowering that anxiety, and just being present. Find your flow. Make the most of your time by staying on track with everything. So find your flow with things. Like I said, if you're more of a morning person, you can get things done. Wake up early and do that. If you're a night person, do that. Find your flow, what works for you, and that's going to help you be in those present moments as well. Improve your ability to accept. So move towards what's bothering you rather than denying and running away from it. So when you're having a struggle, when something's going on, you're feeling anxious, whether it's about the future or the past or even the present moment, don't run away from it. Run towards it and try to figure that out, because if you don't figure it out, it's always going to keep coming back up from you. You always have to find the root of the problem to figure that out. And when the quicker that you can figure out the things that are bothering you, whether they're from the past, or you're worrying about the future, or something that's going on in your life right at this very moment, if you figure that out now, you're going to have more time. It's going to be a lot easier to be in the present moment. And then lastly is enhance your engagement. So working on reducing moments of mindfulness and noticing new things to improve your mindfulness. So just be engaged with your life. Be mindful of things and practice that engagement with people. Really, really listen to somebody when they talk. Really, really work hard when you're at your computer and you're working. Put all your distractions away. But when you go and you get to go to the gym or have a good workout, then just focus on that. Focus on your one thing and be very, very engaged. Well, that is all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Allysa Jo. I so appreciate you being here. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button so you're notified every single time there's new episodes, every Monday and Thursday. Remember to like and follow us on social media. I update those regularly, and leave a 5-star review. I look forward to next time. Stay happy, stay healthy, and be mindful. Okay, take care. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find the show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast.